Thank you for joining us today for our sixth and final session of the Radio's Digital Transformation Series. Today we'll be covering tracking performance and removing roadblocks. As a reminder, we will have the entire series available on Marketron.com. You can go there and search Digital Transformation Series to find the page that lists all 6 sessions with their full recordings and slide decks for you to download. I'm going to cover a couple housekeeping items before we get started. Please do note that all participants are currently muted. Today's webinar is being recorded and we will share it with all registrants in an email after the webinar is over. We really encourage that you ask questions via the chat box because we will have a Q&A after the discussion. If we do not get to your question in today's call, please be assured that a team member will follow through with you afterwards to make sure that your question is answered. And with that, I'd like to introduce to you our presenters today. We have with us Jimshade Choudhury, Senior Vice President here at Marketron, and Todd Coleman, Senior Vice President of Sales for Marketron. Jimshade and Todd, thank you so much for being with us today. I will go ahead and hand this over to Jimshade now to get started.
Thanks, Christine, and welcome everyone. Glad you could join us today. So we're going to talk about an important topic, which is how you track performance and remove roadblocks as you make your digital transformation journey. This is really geared towards the leaders at the stations, but the points can apply at all levels across the station. As we all know, any kind of transformation has its challenges, but by taking a few steps, you can set yourself up for success. There are 5 main areas that Todd and I are going to cover today to ensure that you're focusing on the right items. I'm going to provide a quick overview of those 5, and then we'll dive into each of them one at a time. So the first is adding digital to your scorecard, which basically means just adding digital metrics to measure your business the same way how you measure your overall business. Digital can't be an add-on, it has to be part of your core business, and so you should measure it in the same place that you're measuring the rest of the business. The second is making sure that once you define those metrics, that performance and how you're doing towards those metrics is visible and can be easily shared with anybody across the organization that needs to know. And you're going to learn a lot when you're making this transition. And this third point is that you want to share this knowledge, what things are working, what things aren't working, how to overcome obstacles in regular brainstorming meetings. And then you're going to need to hold your employees accountable for their digital performance the same way you hold them accountable for their normal or existing duties. And then finally, don't forget to celebrate success, as this is going to be a somewhat difficult journey, but it's going to be one that you're going to reap rewards, and you want to celebrate that success across the teams. So let's dive into that first area, adding digital to your scorecard. So you've probably all heard of KPIs, or key performance indicators, which are simply just a set of metrics that you use to measure an aspect of your business. Some of you might be using OKRs, objective and key results, to do something similar. But regardless of what techniques you're using, it's really important that you define some metrics and goals around digital. You've probably heard the acronym SMART to make your metrics or goals specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound. And it's important when you're defining these metrics or the success that you do it at 3 different levels: at the company level, at the team level, and at the personal or individual level. So for example, a company KPI could be to have 10% of your total revenue come from digital advertising 12 months after you launch it. A team KPI could be to sell $100,000 of digital advertising in the first quarter of 2021. And a personal or individual KPI could be to pitch 5 proposals that include digital every week. So it's important that you define the metrics that you want to measure for your digital business. But after setting these metrics, it's really important that you regularly communicate how well the station is doing in relation to the metrics that you've defined, as digital is going to be new to many people and they're going to be very interested. So in terms of helping communicate the performance, you should use some kind of technology to set up a dashboard that provides a quick snapshot of how the business is doing. So this can be as simple as building something in Excel, Or if you want something more sophisticated, you can pay for a dashboarding tool like Tableau. It really doesn't matter what you use to create the dashboards, as long as they can be simply understood and easily shared with the relevant people. It's also critical to include both your radio and digital metrics together in one spot. Digital cannot be an add-on to your business, and it must become part of the core. So now that you've defined what you're going to measure and how you're going to communicate that out to the org, I'm going to turn it over to Todd to walk through the next few areas.
Hey, thanks, Jim Shade. So Jim Shade brought up a few very, very important points, and pulling this forward, hosting regular brainstorm meetings is a great way for idea exchange. I've always believed a cup of help and a cup of accountability is the recipe to sales success. And it's probably a recipe for success in many other departments, but it's certainly the success for a sales department. So in a brainstorm meeting, everybody brings a customer challenge or a prospect challenge. And as a group, you solve it. You ask what's working, what is not working, what do you do when something's not working, what do you do when it's working, how do you find out what you can do more of, what you need to do less of. It's about the exchange of information, good and bad, and there is good and there is bad, and I think it's important to pull that to the forefront. So I think a weekly brainstorm meeting is a way that you can give that cup of help. When it comes to the cup of accountability, one-on-one meetings need to happen weekly. They're critical. So often in our business, in the radio business, one-on-one meetings are scheduled, but they don't happen. They have to happen. Your AEs should own those meetings. It's their time to meet with you, to get ideas, to go through their performance, and to be held accountable. As a leader, you've got to hold yourself accountable. You have to make this time available for the reps. And then you have to track them and refer back to it in the future. So developing those feedback skills, if they're not tracked and they're not inspected, they won't be respected. So you got to address these accountability issues when they happen. Got to keep track of what your employees say they're going to do. If they're going to make a certain amount of phone calls, if they're going to meet with a certain amount of customers when COVID's over in person or in Zoom, you got to hold them accountable to do what they say they're going to do. And you've got to hold them accountable to their quotas. The final thing that Jim Shade brought up earlier is celebrating success. It's very, very basic, but it's also very, very important. You know, a pat on the back is nice. When you say nice work, that's nice. But I think something monumental or something that they will remember for a long time is a great way to celebrate success. And it doesn't have to be super expensive. You may want to send, one way that I like to do it is if your team achieves a goal, send your team a lunch via delivery and let them know, I'm going to buy lunch on, at the end of the month. For everybody in the team, it'll be delivered. We'll have a little Zoom meeting, and I'm going to have lunch delivered to your house if we hit these goals. It's my opinion that success breeds success. It's kind of like sharks. When there's blood in the water, they swarm. Everybody wants to do well for their customers. Remember, success isn't selling digital and broadcast together. Success is getting your customers results, which selling broadcast and digital together does. It gives those clients results. And when those clients get results, they will renew. They have no other option but to renew if they're getting success. So it's super important that you don't forget to celebrate your team when they meet goals that you've set and that they've set with you. So, Christine, I'm going to turn it back over to you.
Wonderful. Jim Shade and Todd, thank you so much. So before we get into QA, just a reminder to everyone on the call that you can watch the full series online on Marketron.com, and our recap email after today's call will be include a link directly to that page so you can catch up, share, review any of the sessions in the digital transformation series. Now we're going to get into some questions. So first one kind of refers back to measurement. And how do I know what KPIs to choose? Todd, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, so what KPI should you choose? The first one is setting the goal at a corporate level or at a very high level of the station, like the GM with the director of sales. What's important to the company? Where are you trying to go? And then work backwards. Well, here's the KPIs that we need as a company. Here's the KPIs that we need to do with the management team. Here's the KPIs that we need to do with the sales team. And by the way, here's the KPIs that we need to do with other departments. They should be individualized for each individual company's destination where you're trying to go. But I think in a very general sense, if you take a look at the KPIs from a bottom up, it should give a roadmap of the ultimate destination. Where are you trying to go as a company?
Thank you. Yes, that definitely makes sense. This webinar, mentions roadblocks. What do you think the biggest or most common roadblocks are with adding in digital? Jim Shade, I'm going to throw that one to you.
All right, thanks, Christine. I think it's a great question. There's lots of potential roadblocks as part of this journey. But I think the biggest roadblock that we see is stations not realizing how much they have to change to be successful with digital. You simply can't add digital as a product and expect it to work. It's really the combination, as Todd mentioned, of traditional radio and digital products that truly deliver value for the advertisers. The important part to note is selling this combination of products fundamentally changes your business, and it impacts all aspects of the organization. So that can mean that you have to change your org structure. You have to change your comp plans, your sales pitches, and maybe even your website. So it's really critical to have alignment and commitment to this change from the top down. Without that, you're not going to succeed. And so we see a lot of stations that have good intentions around making this transformation, but they don't make the commitment across the organization. And without that commitment across the organization, you're not going to be successful.
Thank you. Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head, and in fact, this whole series, really speaks to everything you said about it coming from the top down and really committing to it. So, thank you, Todd. I got another question that I'm going to send to you. How would you properly motivate your team to sell digital, especially if they're new to it?
Well, yeah, so it's kind of funny. I always say if you hire motivated people, all you have to do is keep them motivated, right? And the truth of the matter is, a salesperson is highly motivated by a happy customer, okay? A customer that's getting results. So if we're properly understanding the customer's key marketing objectives and we're putting the right vehicles in place to deliver that message to the marketplace, whether that's a combination of utilizing broadcast with, call it geofencing or desktop display, or whatever the tactic might be, and that customer comes back with results and they renew, and in your one-on-ones, you're reviewing how they're doing against their own metrics, and finally, you're celebrating success as a team and individually, that alone should motivate your team, should motivate individuals on that team. And like I said, if you hire motivated people, they're going to stay motivated unless you give them a reason not to be.
That's a very good insight. Thank you, Todd. And kind of jumping on that, in our final question really of the day, Jim Shade, how do you celebrate success?
Yeah, that's another good question. How you celebrate success, I think, is going to vary across different stations and teams. Todd mentioned earlier, right, of sending lunch to team members when they hit a specific goal, and that might work for some people. It might be a team outing for other teams. You really need to celebrate in a way that resonates with your people, and you should know your people best. I think the important thing to realize is that you have to celebrate across multiple teams and not only in one functional area. I think it's very natural for the sales team to celebrate because they're going to be the ones that are out there selling, the new digital products alongside the traditional radio products. But you have to realize that there's a lot of other teams that are enabling that success around digital. So whether it's the traffic team, the accounting teams, etc., it's really important to make sure that you celebrate the success across the entire company and not just in one functional
Wonderful, thank you. And with that, I want to thank Jim Shade and Todd for their time and their insight today. This is the final installment of our digital transformation series, and we hope you found it informative and left you excited to begin the transformation at your station. Again, if you want to review, share, or catch up with any of the series, you can go to marketron.com, where we'll have posted all the recordings and session slides. I would also like to tell you about our exciting new initiative, the Digital Sellers Series. This is going to be a free 8-part email learning course designed with radio salespeople in mind. Each lesson is going to dive into a single digital tactic and teach you what it is, who should use it, and how to be successful with a relevant case study. Each lesson will contain additional information to help drive understanding and confidence when selling digital to your advertisers. A link is going to be to sign up will be included in the recap of this webinar coming shortly. So please look out for that email to see the recap information for this series and to sign up for our Digital Sellers Series 8-week learning course. If your question wasn't answered, we will have someone reach out to you soon. And so I want to thank you all again for joining us on this journey of the Digital Transformation Series. And we look forward to speaking with you soon. Thank you.